against the Boston Celtics. We don't know who the coach of the Boston Celtics is because the old guy was pretty bad and he's going to be out for the entire season. And then we're going to follow that up with a West Coast matchup. It's the Golden State Warriors hosting LeBron James and the LA Lakers.
Are you done?
No, I'm ready for some NBA action. It's fantastic.
Every time you do something like that, I'm subtracting $1 from your betting winnings.
What does it mean? You really shouldn't have even gone to the trouble to mail that thing off. I mean, it would have been fine just to keep it as a receipt, and that was so unnecessary, but it's fine.
I have a copy. You want a copy?
It's fine.
I guess a guy like you just finds $20 bills laying on the street all the time.
Well, 20 of that's yours, right? Because you gave the original, you gave the original wager.
Yeah, I loaned you the money, and there's something called interest.
Oh God, I'm on Team Kanye now. Hang on. Oh.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay. We're good. We're ready. It is the Brad and Britt cast. We're glad you're with us at our regular time as we go to, they say, press in the 1:30 Eastern hour here on Tuesday. Just 24 hours ahead of hump day. Sorry.
That's great.
Didn't mean that. Oh, boy. Well, I got a list.
Yeah, you do.
Been checking it twice.
Uh-huh.
Let's find out who's naughty or shitty.
That's a little twist. I'm ready when you are.
Herschel's late-breaking Halloween fashion ideas.
Oh, wow.
A Republic if you can keep it.
Mm-hmm.
Joe plays the abortion card. Smart idea or not smart idea? Hey, Putin, you can kill the power stations in Ukraine, but you can't break their will, buddy. And the most dangerous Republican of them all, and I'm not talking about Trump.
Wow. Do the hey, Joe, say it ain't so. Joe Biden making a pretty definitive statement on abortion, Brad, today.
Yeah. So let's come at it from here's what they're going to say about it. Ready? Mm-hmm. Here we go. He's desperate. He doesn't want to talk about inflation and the economy that he's destroyed. And right? That's all they've got is the abortion card. And that was a hot thing in August, but they blew it. The Democrats peaked too soon. Say it 50 times. Yeah. They peaked too soon. Britt, tell me how that works. You have something that happens, like the Supreme Court making one of the most horrendous decisions they've made in our lifetime, maybe the most. And it happens in, what was that, June, right? Because they're not in, that must have been June. And so it's a big deal. Are you supposed to say, you know what? We don't want to peak too soon. Let's not talk about this now. Let's ignore it, and we'll bring it back up a month before the election. That way we won't peak too. See, this is bullshit.
It is.
This is the media.
All right, everybody. We're gonna on the conference call. We're gonna circle the calendar. October the 8th. Nobody talk about this until October the 8th. Okay. It is kind of stupid. It really is.
Right. So I'll come at it from a complete different direction, which is, and by the way, Andrea Mitchell, NBC News, whose heyday was 1973, but we'll put that aside. That would be ageism an attack on a esteemed female Hall of Fame journalist, looked Nancy Pelosi straight in the eye today and said, why didn't Joe Biden suggest right after the decision was made in the Dobbs case, knocking out Roe versus Wade, right then, why didn't he come out right then and say that if he gets himself majorities in both the House and the Senate again, bigger than the ones that are now, they'll codify Roe versus Wade. We'll make it law. Why didn't he say it then, Nancy?
Okay,
she said.
So let me pause you just for a second. So the problem is that the Democrats should have waited much longer, or in this case, Andrea Mitchell's thing is, why didn't he 4 seconds after the decision was announced, jump on it and hump it to death? Right?
Britt,
those are the two extremes.
Britt, that would not have been peaking too soon, right?
Like, within 4 seconds of the announcement coming out, he should have done it. But oh my God, you guys, you peaked too soon.
All right, so stripping away all of the fun that we're having with this, and there's just nothing more fun than abortion talk.
I didn't want to talk about it. You didn't want to talk about it. They fucking they chipped away at it for 50 years.
And by the way, we bring up this name occasionally, every once in a while, sometimes in respect, in love, but most of the time in just annoyance. Our old compatriot Neil Bortz, and one of who did talk radio, longer than we've done it. He's retired now, but one of his ironclad rules was he never talked about abortion. I want you to think about how smart that was.
But if he ever did, he sounded like about 10 times more liberal than you and I did. If you ever heard him talk about it on his show, he was so far to the left, and he would really piss off his Republican listeners, the ones who clung to that thing.
Right, because I think that was the libertarianism in him.
Yeah,
coming through on that. But put it again. We'll set what Neil used to say. If Neil were still around, he'd have to be talking about it. I don't think you could never talk about it in today's world. But
yeah, I think he would. I think his tact would be how stupid Republicans are for doing this. I think that would be Neil's take. That's how he would talk about it.
Right. But now that we've finished our little fun time here, I would make the case that what Joe Biden said on Tuesday in a quote unquote major speech, if there's such a thing as a major speech at 11 in the morning, going around, that if he gets his majorities appropriately enough in large enough margins that they'll try to pay. Of course, that would, there's about 8 other things that have to happen. But I would say to you that it's excellent timing, it's excellent content, and it does change the conversation, and it does target an audience who correctly, it's being assessed, has kind of let the abortion thing go. Well, oh, it was hot in the sun. We're not thinking about it. And you know what? That's exactly what Joe Biden's job is. It's to read the room or the country and say, well, this is the thing to bring up right now. This is that moment. People are starting to vote all over the country in early voting. They may have forgotten that a few months ago, they were rightfully all worked up over this issue and say, I'm going to vote this. And everything subsides. Nothing can stay at a fever pitch forever. So with, and I don't know about you, gas prices, yes, they're quote unquote headed back up again. I'm not sure that going from $3.35 back to $3.65 is equivalent to what it did, back in the spring. But the way it's being reported, Britt, tell me if I'm wrong, they're making it sound as if all those 90 days in a row when it went down, that's all gone. It all went away. It's all back up. We don't live in California, Britt, where gasoline has never been less than $7. In our world, Britt, am I wrong about saying, yes, it's backed up a little bit in the wrong direction? And I don't think that's enough to derail everything for the Democrats, but because it's being reported badly, because it's only the direction that the prices are going in. If the day before election day, they go up a penny, well, they went to the polls on a day when gasoline was going up, so they voted the Republicans back in to punish Joe Biden. Am I am I a little bit jaundiced on this issue?
No, that's exactly. I mean, the bloodsuckers over at Fox News who really drive the whole narrative on this thing. They've been pouncing, waiting for it to go up every cent it can, and then they gleefully talk about how awful Joe Biden is when it goes up, a penny, penny and a half, whatever it goes up.
Right. So if gasoline goes up over a long period of time, actually a fairly short period, 6 months, it goes up $1.50, $2 a gallon, then it comes back down by $1.25 most of the way back down, but then it goes back up a dime. That's the end of the world, right?
Well,
right?
I mean, I get what you're saying, but it also, to be completely fair, it is a huge pain in the ass for a lot of Americans for it to go back up, and it does put a dent in you after a while. I understand it's all context, but yeah, when you're getting into a good place where it's headed in the right direction, then it's not. It kind of sucks. But yes, I tend to agree with what you're saying. There's a lot of vultures out there. Stupid ass Laura Ingraham had a tweet out there, and she was mocking the idea of, I thought the price of gas was going down, and she has a screenshot of gas at $3.76 a gallon somewhere. And again, bad news for America is good news for Republicans. I get it. That's what they try to leech onto. That's what they try to jump on every single chance that they can get. But it's fine.
I agree with what you just said, except I think it's a wider swath of reportage than just Fox and the right wingers, trying to undercut Joe Biden and the Democrats.
Yeah,
because we have a larger media than just them, and they're just as bad at not reporting any kind of perspective or context about anything at any given moment.
Well, haven't you also found this to be the case? I think particularly, I'll say I've noticed it in the past 15 or 16 years, particularly since the global worldwide recession, 2008, 2009. Economic reporting tends to be some of the worst reporting on television and really in the media in general. To me, the economy and money in general seems to be some of the most piss poor. And that's not to say that there's not really good people that do a really good job at it, but I find it to be, it lacks context. People don't get the proper reportage on it. All of that stuff I find to be some of the worst reporting out there.
Well, you're correct, except again, it didn't just start 16 years ago.
Yeah.
It's been kind of forever.
Yeah.
And it's because of the black or white, yes or no, up or down, good or bad, wrong direction, right direction tendency to, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? No. Are you horribly off? See, that it's always like that.
Well,
and most people's lives are not that way.
Well, you go to an economist if you're a local reporter, and whoever it is, whether it's for a website or whether it's for TV or whatever, and you go to the economist and you say, hey, what is the problem now with mortgage rates? Why are mortgage rates exploding? And the person gives you an answer, but you're looking for, it's Joe Biden's fault. It's his. Hey, say it. And they won't do that, right? They well, on the one hand, this is happening. On the other hand, this is happening. The market's doing this, and this is, and you don't want to hear that. You just don't want to hear that.
Right. So based on, again, what we've just saying for the last 5 minutes, I think it's pretty good strategy for Joe Biden to go out there and talk about something, an issue that the Democrats own, that liberals own, and that drilling down is a 70% or more issue in terms of freedom. And this idea that they should have talked about it last summer more, or wait a minute, if they already did it, they already peaked then, which is it? We'll never settle that stupidity. I think it's a good thing.
But the narrative this plays into the narrative that Joe Biden is just a shitty politician. That there's an overwhelming, that is the narrative, he's just this bumbling fool. Joe Biden's a pretty good politician when it comes to strategic stuff that happens in the course of his career. I mean, I think he's I'm sorry, he's pretty good at this stuff.
Well, to quote the previous president, I got elected president, you didn't.
I'm sorry.
And in the case of Biden got elected president, Trump didn't.
You can make
he didn't do it. He didn't do it by being incapable of having a broad understanding of what's going on in the country and with the American people. Now, he didn't get to where he got by making all those stupid gaffes. You know, I saw another one today, Britt. Did you see it? He read off the teleprompter.com and he said, blah, 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 DOTCOM. He's so old, he should be forced to resign, maybe impeached, because he read it off the teleprompter that way. He's so stupid. Donald Trump would never make that kind of mistake. He was a perfect orator. He was perfect.
You can say there's a lot of things you can say about Joe Biden and his career. And I completely would agree with anyone who says he would not be president had it not been for the 8 years that he served as vice president under Barack Obama. That's fair. There was a confluence of events that happened in 2020 that led to him winning. And there's several books that have been written about this. It was very close as an election, but he's done a lot of stuff in his career, which goes back decades in the United States Senate. And as a vice president, that have been pretty shrewd political moves. It's not always been great. They've not always been home runs, but he's done pretty well in a lot of key situations.
He doesn't have to prove anything to anybody, and we don't have to build him up.
But the narrative, the overwhelming narrative day after day is this bumbling Mr. Magoo type fool that's in the White House that just stumbles all over the place, and eventually he lands sunny side up. And it's very lazy, it's very convenient, but it's also pernicious and it's also pervasive. And I'm sorry, but I think you're right. This was not a bad move. This was the smart move to make, and it was a pretty good time to do it. As a matter of fact, you're right. As people are going to be heading in for early voting pretty soon.
Right. Well, the number of women who immediately started registering to vote last summer was large. It was measurable. It was important. And yeah, okay, so they registered in bigger numbers. And of course, over time, that's going to dissipate. They're not going to keep registering the same amount day after day after day over and over again. But those people are registered to vote now. Of course, being registered doesn't mean you've cast a vote.
Right.
And they need to be reminded about what was motivating them and what was pissing them off and what they are clearly thinking about in terms of my children are not going to have the same rights that I had or the same rights that my mom had in terms of the right to choose an abortion. And it's absolutely correct to 3 weeks, less than 3 weeks, I guess now, before actual election day, to bring it back up and put it on the front burner and put it back in everyone's face. And with all these debates going on around the country, the better candidates are able to fashion the message when they talk to the Republican or whoever else is up on stage. And I understand, and we get it. Okay, here's one that pisses me. I am fucking tired of the ranking of the most important things people care about, and therefore, blah, 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 blah. Okay? I think, again, you said it. It's lazy. Yeah. It's easy.
It is.
And I just, I think there's more to America than that. I'm hopeful that there is, because as you know, top of the fold, right at the top today, it's topic A, all across cable and everywhere else, that the New York Times has got the goods, and boy, is it looking bad for Democrats. Holy shit. Are they they're just 1/3 of the country is willing to vote for someone who questions the outcome of the election. Even if they disagree with the people's policies, I'd still vote for that person, even though they're an election denier. I don't care. So Trump has won. They've won this game. It's over.
But I can play the opposite side on that. Is the New York Times is, again, if I'm a right winger, I'm going, well, the New York Times is just doing this to fire up the Democratic base. They're just saying stuff. It's not true, and they just want to piss off the Democrats and get them out there and voting. If you want to be, you can play it that way as well.
You could, but voters see democracy in peril, but saving it is not a priority.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That would go against what I just said, which is I don't think the American people are quite as stupid as they're portrayed. Because if this is true, that, for instance, the January 6th hearings over the last few months have cut through and have made the peril to our democracy issue one for so many people, and but at the same time, so what? I don't care. If that's really true, then it's over, and we're going to have authoritarian government in this country, and we're going to have elections that don't count, and every election that a Republican doesn't win will be nullified one way or the other. They're going to figure out how to do it. They're going to put the people in place to do it, and we're all just going to sit back. We're going to sit back and watch the country turn into a half-assed democracy, if even that. It's just a voters see democracy in peril, but saving it isn't a priority. And of course, remember, Republicans believe democracy is in peril too, because Joe Biden passed the Inflation Reduction Act and other horrible things that he's done. Right?
I can do a local angle on that, because when we had the election back in the spring here in where we live, we voted for bond issues to be sold to help out in improvements in various places, but we didn't want to vote for that 1/4% sales tax increase that would actually pay for the bonds. We want the stuff, we just don't want to pay for it.
That's a different. That is a different version of it, but that is absolutely on point. That is on. Yeah.
For those of you that are, and again, you were saying you hope the American people aren't that stupid. I would like to just for you to look at your screen for one moment. There you go. McDonald's adult Happy Meal toys selling up to $300,000 on eBay. If you'd like to have some faith in people, I can always undercut it anytime you'd like. People are that stupid. I'm sorry. That's
where can I make that bid, Britt?
That's going to be on eBay. Just look on eBay for McDonald's adult Happy Meal toys. So, since we're doing this and we're talking about abortion, let me, because I think this came up the other night, maybe on the CNN show or something. The phrase, what they try to throw at Democrats all the time, and they throw at them, is the phrase abortion on demand.
Right.
That's a bad thing. You're for abortion on demand. And I would like for Democratic candidates to be able to counter that, because that's so stupid and such a dumb thing to say. Are you for free speech on demand? Are you for freedom of religion on demand? Well, I happen to believe that a woman on demand should have control of her own body. I don't know how that's controversial. I don't know how that's a bad thing. But I would like for Democratic candidates to somehow counter that stupid abortion on demand phrase that just is thrown at them like shit against a wall.
Well, of course, the thought behind them using that is that if you don't swat it down and you agree to at least some parameters, and most of the candidates I've seen, when they are pushed on that, will say, the Roe versus Wade standard was just fine. The country did just fine under that. And that's what Joe Biden is talking about today. That's the quick answer, but sometimes it's not fashioned well enough. And the Republican is able to put out there this concept that the other person that they're debating, or their opponent, and if you ask who's the biggest asshole, of course it's Trump. I mean, how many of his rallies where he brings this up, he'll talk about not just abortion on demand, but a second before the baby is born, and then even after the baby is born, they want to have an abortion on the baby, which again, that's too stupid to talk about, but they talk about it that way. And so it's portrayed as if you're for the rights of women to control their own bodies and get an abortion when it is necessary, or when they choose to get that abortion, or in the case of all the medical complications that can come up associated with miscarriages and the like. And again, I'm no expert on this either. I'm just a stupid man who doesn't know women's bodies either. If you're for that, and you're for the Roe versus Wade standard, that should be enough. but they try to turn the tables and go all in with quote unquote abortion on demand. So you're right. I'd like to see a listing of all the answers that have been given around the country to that. But women are smarter than that, Britt. Those women who just registered to vote, maybe for the first time, even in the wake of the Dobbs decision, they're not stupid. They're not falling for the abortion on demand line. They're not.
Yeah. Well, that's a singularly that's something a man would say. That's a phrase that a man came up with. It's so stupid.
Oh, yep. So you're right, but I think that Joe Biden and this move is a smart move. We'll see 3 weeks from now if we're able to say, you know what, this made a big difference. This changed things. This stoked a little bit more turnout in Georgia or in Ohio or in North Carolina.
Well, sure.
Or a lot of other states where, and by the way, I think that the polling right now is so all over the map on so many issues and so many candidates in so many different places. It's almost like you really want to just put your hands over your ears for the next few weeks and just stop looking and listening to what polls are saying. I mean, it's honest to God, it's just an absurd notion. It's just an absurd notion because it gets harder. We talked about this previously. It gets harder to reach people to get a straight answer. And if lying to pollsters has been a thing for a while.
Oh, it has.
What do you think it's like now?
Oh, 10 times worse. Much, much worse than it ever was.
Yeah.
Let's do Uncle Herschel's Halloween fun time.
This is delightful. So Herschel's trying to, as the pundits say, flip the script on the flashing the badge bit. Okay, where he flashed this toy badge to make you think that he had some kind of police power or some association with sheriffs around the state of Georgia. And so their campaign has ordered 1,000 plastic replicas, those badges that say, quote, "I'm with Herschel." And they'll be handing them out at a fundraising event next week in Macon, Georgia, which, as you know, is right near the Macon County line. Max Baer Jr., director.
Well, it's nice. Also the hometown, I believe, of the Allman Brothers.
There you go.
And possibly Otis Redding.
Right. So he's trying to flip the script and make it funny and ha he. Now, Britt, may I quote to you the text I sent to you and John the Catholic. This is dated 11:36 p.m. Friday night.
Okay.
I watched the whole thing, referring to the Herschel Walker, Raphael Warnock debate. I'm afraid that as goofy as that clip is, the one of course, him showing the badge, which has been seen now a million times, Herschel got by with a D-, and enough idiots in Georgia, all looking past his utter ignorance and mental problems and his lying and the hypocrisy, maybe saying, he held his own. He was more in command of the issues than given credit for, neither of which is actually true. He memorized the "you voted with Joe Biden 98% of the time. You're for Joe Biden. I'm for the people of Georgia," and repeated it 8 times. By the way, I heard someone who does pay even closer attention today say he did say it 12 times. I only said 8 when I first said this, dude. Yeah. Just like Ted Budd did here. Remember how low the bar is for Herschel Walker to jump over. So
it's very low.
I don't want to do a victory dance on that because I'm not happy to be correct. But as you know, Britt, every day that goes by, wow, he did a lot better. He was prepared. He didn't shit on the floor. He didn't drool all over himself. Herschel Walker. And then, did you see him on Hannity Monday night? My goodness. So let me get this straight. They give him a full 1-hour infomercial on the Hannity show Monday night, and Sean Hannity throws him the slowest underhand pitches in the history of the world.
What? There was no withering criticism from Sean Hannity. He didn't play hardball with Herschel Walker?
Right. And so this move with the toy badges being handed out at at this point, that's just standard issue Republicans. When they do something stupid and you point it out and it's knowably stupid and completely idiotic, they take it and they run with it and they act as if you're the jerk for having pointed it out, right? You're the jerk for thinking that him showing the badge was stupid and idiotic and inappropriate and wrong, in addition to being against the rules of the debate. And so we're going to show that. And so they're all going to wear them proudly, right, Britt? They're going to wear them proudly when they pass them out.
Yeah, fuck you, liberals.
Yeah. Yep. They're owning the libs. Herschel's owning the libs with his badge. I saw Trevor Noah had a great line on this. Since Herschel Walker thinks he's a sheriff by having a toy badge, can somebody just give him a certificate that says he's a senator and have him go away? Just a fake certificate, hold it up. It works the same way.
It really, Elvis had the same thing. Elvis had like a collection of badges from various places that he liked to show off. And that's essentially why he went to go meet with Nixon. He wanted like a DEA badge or something.
Yeah. Oh, that was different.
That was the whole thing.
That was different. All right. So
whole situation.
All right. So we may as well then go to the, you know what? We haven't talked about this. It's been a couple days, and this is certainly still in people's minds, not just where we are, but all over the country, although it'll be surpassed soon, I'm sure, by something else that's similar. But the shooting last week in Raleigh, in I guess that's a pretty beautiful, nice part of Raleigh. It's a greenway. It's a nice neighborhood, the whole thing, by this 15-year-old who had, I guess, a long gun and a backpack, and maybe there was a second gun. And he killed 5 people, including his brother, which it's weird. Most of the coverage I've seen doesn't mention prominently that it was his brother who was one of the victims. You'd think that would be a pretty important deal there. Because first it was, well, he didn't know any of the victims. What do you mean he didn't know? Yes, he did. One of them was his brother. They finally got over that. But here we are, 5 days after?
5, yeah.
And they're being real quiet about the ancestry of the gun.
Yeah.
Whose gun was it? How did this guy get it? This kid get it? And therefore, we're going to have a tree of responsibility here, because we know that this young, angry white male didn't walk into a gun store and buy it legally. So at least in this particular case, we're not subject to the dreadful, well, but the gun was purchased legally, which very often happens when it's a 19 or a 21-year-old angry, never had sex, loser white kid, mad at the world.
Ted Budd, do you believe in handguns on demand, firearms on demand?
Yeah.
Just curious.
So did he get it from a friend? Did he get it from a family member? Was the rifle unlocked in a safe that was open? Who knows? I mean, there's no good answer. And when we find out, it's going to be dreadful no matter what it is.
The WRAL writes, in Raleigh police continue to remain tight-lipped about the guns and who they belong to. So they're being asked, but they're being given this is an ongoing investigation line from the police department.
Boy, I think they're making a mistake there. That's such an important part of the story, beyond talking about the victims themselves and what was lost. It's almost as if, I hate to even think that, this just doesn't look good for the pro-gun crowd. This might be difficult to defend. This might be difficult to defend if you're a pro-gun nut, like a particular person running for the U.S. Senate right now who owns a gun store, Ted Budd, Republican, running against Sherry Beasley. It might be a difficult defense.
It would be tough, wouldn't it?
It could be. I don't know.
Those would be some uncomfortable questions for a dunderhead like Ted Budd to be able to answer, wouldn't it?
But don't hide it, because if you hide it, then people like us, we the gun grabbers,
yeah,
we're going to speculate. We're going to think the worst, as opposed to as if there's a good explanation, a sufficient, a decent explanation as to why a 15-year-old got their hands on that kind of firepower. Because, of course, the answer to that is a 15-year-old should not be allowed to get their hands on that. And that gun in and of itself probably should. Was that an AR-15? Was that a...
I don't think that they've even released that information, Brad.
Yeah.
I don't.
Well, we don't have a right to know, Britt. We don't have a right to know.
Yeah, where is the public's right to know about that?
Yeah. Oh, by the way, if you want to see something, and I don't know whether this is going to bubble up to national cable news or elsewhere, but I was watching it this morning. Down in Florida, our favorite state, everybody's favorite state these days, Florida, where Ron DeSantis is being Ron DeSantis. Mm-hmm. He's really into the line about that. We're just assuring election integrity with all the kinds of moves that they're making in terms of trying to shrink the voting population in Florida any way they can. And as you know, about 3 or 4 years ago, the voters of Florida, this was not the voters of Florida in a referendum said that after you've served your time as a felon, you will have the right to vote restored. And in small print, it says, except in the cases of sexual crimes or murder. Okay. But all other felons are to have their voting rights restored. So what does the state of Florida do now under the administration of Ron DeSantis? They pretend to comply, and they send out and make available registration for everybody, including these felons. But that small print about if you're a sexual predator or you don't get your rights back. But they present registration opportunities for everybody, for all of everybody.
And now so people are being arrested all over the place.
People innocently sign up, and they
just out of curiosity, what color do most of those people have as far as their skin tone, Brad? The ones that I've seen, anyway.
They're mostly black. Anyway,
mostly black
these,
folks,
these people vote, and so DeSantis sends out, and after looking at the video, the police this is police video that they show.
Correct. Body cam video, and the police are practically embarrassed to do what they're doing. That is correct.
They are so calm and quiet, and the people are angry that they're
the cops are nearly, and the ones I saw, they're apologetic. Really, I'm sorry, I have to do this. There's going to it's what they call an ROR, which is you go in there, they book you, and then you're released. That's all they do. But the people are there, and I understand you're upset about this, ma'am. I'm sorry, I have to do this. And the cops don't. You think the cops want to do this? Right. Do you think the cops joined?
You're right.
Do you think they joined the police force to do this?
Any of these incidents could technically get ugly and violent. Somebody comes up to you
needlessly. It's just the most needless, preventable thing, because this asshole in Tallahassee thinks that he's going to go out there and be a bigger dick than Donald Trump is. And so far he's doing it.
But what's this all about? It's trying to show the Ron DeSantis base, the MAGA people, the I'm afraid of crime people, because after all, this is a crime that does threaten everyone in Florida.
Let's get real. Let's boil this down. Look at all these N-words I'm putting behind bars. That's the message that they're putting out there to the MAGA voters. That's what he wants them. Look at all these N-words that I'm getting snatching up off the streets. You're
And
welcome.
I'm assuring voter integrity at the same time.
Yeah, allegedly,
It's
which
a twofer.
is a bunch of bullshit. No,
Right.
it's like look, I've got my police force out there snatching up N-words left and right. Don't you like that, MAGA America?
So you're as disgusting as I am. You've already looked at this video, right?
Of course.
Now, did we talk about this before we started?
No, but it's fucking pathetic, and it's not a coincidence that mostly it's black folks they're going after, and again the cops could not be. No one. I don't blame the police officers in the least. They're simply doing their job. They're doing a job they don't want to do, and it's very obvious in this whole situation that they don't. They'd rather be doing anything. They'd rather be rousting people from handicapped parking spots. They'd rather be writing tickets for jaywalking. Anything.
May I give the Republican
Yeah.
Response to most incidents like this when it's not something? Don't they have anything better to do? Don't these cops have other crimes they should be trying to solve? No.
I think the crack problem and the violent crime problem in Florida is pretty much under wraps. This is the biggest thing going on. And
Aren't
then
there some illegal immigrants swimming up on the beaches of South Beach that they can be grabbing?
We got that figured out. There's the story that I'm showing now for those of you that are watching. A Florida cop advised one of the people arrested in the DeSantis voter fraud crackdown how to defend himself against the charges, according to body camera footage. Now, of course, this cop is he'll probably have death threats. They'll probably be right. We got to suspend him and possibly fire him because he was telling these poor people how to defend themselves against this bullshit.
The version I saw, which I saw it in the Tampa Bay Times, they were pixelating out the faces of the cops.
I saw that. Yeah.
Right. So now think about that. Why is that?
Well, you don't want the cops. I mean, if it's somebody on a beat and it like engenders some bad feelings toward the cops in the community, you want to be like, hey, that's that motherfucker that did that thing to Aunt Helen or whatever. I'm going to go beat his ass. That's what you're putting cops in a bad situation. I think that's what you're getting at.
I think
that's what at a time, by the way, when it's not such a great time to be a cop, period, end of story, full stop. So here you are making it more difficult for them. But, DeSantis doesn't give a shit. He supports the cops. The blue line and all that horse shit. Get out of my face.
So what do you think the chances are? I mean, that's got to make it to bubble up to the top and get seen everywhere, don't you think?
I hope so. And these poor people who may have committed this felony 10 years ago, 12 years ago, whatever it is, they're just in their front yards going to work or whatever.
Well, I saw the one guy looks at the officer says, I've paid my debt to society.
He has.
I was told I could vote again. Yes. So these people are completely rational and, considering the circumstance, calm. And then they're told, it might cost you $500 bond or something. And that's a lot of money.
It is.
And so it's a horrendous story. It's emblematic of what
look at me. I'm Ron DeSantis.
Autocrat tyrants like DeSantis are going to do to get the attention of the MAGA crowd. Let's finish up quickly with the most dangerous Republican of them all, not Trump. And of course, I'm speaking of the woman who wants to be the governor of Arizona, Carrie Lake, who is about as dangerous as they get, I think, because she knows all of the rhetorical flourishes and skills to appeal and get elected in this country right now in a celebrity culture of you don't have to know anything. You just have to know how to say what you're saying. And there was a big, long piece about her the other day by a reporter from the Washington Post who, by the way, had to pull out all of her own teeth just to get 3 minutes with her.
I'm sure.
Because, the first time the two ever met, Carrie Lake's at a campaign event. The reporter, I can't remember her name, introduces herself, and Carrie Lake says, "I don't have time." She says, "I just wanted to introduce myself to you." And Carrie Lake says, "Well, what paper do you write for?" She goes, "The Washington Post." And Carrie Lake says, "Now, who owns that paper?"
Yeah.
Who owns that? Of course, she knows the answer of who owns the paper. It's Jeff Bezos,
Right.
which, as you know, because Jeff Bezos owns the Washington Post, by definition, everyone at the Washington Post is a discredited, hack, partisan hater of people like Carrie Lake. But she just wanted to put her back on her heels, the reporter, by saying something really, really obnoxious
and stupid
like that. But within the article, she points this out about Carrie Lake, that when she speaks, and you've heard her speak, she never says and she never uses the word like. Okay? She is as smooth talking an individual as there is out there. Think of the bumbling, crazy syntax that we talk about with Trump. Well, imagine if Trump spoke perfectly.
Yeah.
Imagine if his diction and his grammar was right on and his pronunciations were that's her 22 years as the prime anchor on the Fox affiliate in Phoenix. I mean, she's got that going on, and somehow that's now translated into the possibility of becoming a MAGA election denying abortion wacko governor of a major state, which immediately puts her into the mix and the discussion about the presidency. So, Britt, we know people who've been on television for a long time, TV anchors, and I don't think we'd think that any one of them is suitable to be president of the United States. But that being said, this is a horrible idea. This is a horrible idea, but it may work out there. And here's the 3 steps ahead idea. If she were to win the Arizona governorship and the blocks fell correctly for Donald Trump so that he wasn't indicted, wasn't on trial, and was actually able to declare himself a candidate for 2024, do you have any doubt that he wouldn't pick her as his vice president?
Oh, yeah, she'd be perfect. I mean, absolutely, 100%.
Is there any doubt whatsoever?
No, I wouldn't have any doubt at all.
By the way, the only reason he wouldn't pick her is for the one reason that you knew he picked Pence, which is he knew Mike Pence would never overshadow him.
Right. But then she would be the next one to be murdered when the next election result doesn't go his way. So she's got to be, it's a 50-50 thing.
Britt, that's 4 steps ahead. I like that. I like the thinking. There's no doubt about it.
She's the one that you got to think about that. You're in the Capitol. They're going to march toward you and try to kill you next time. So
but he couldn't run for re-election anyway if he did win in 24. So.
Well, I don't know if he knows that. I think he would still tell his people that he can, and
right.
that she's trying to stop him.
He will have suspended that part of the
correct
Constitution.
That's right.
Which is in there. By the way, I can't remember in reference to what I said. You know those politicians that carry around like a little pocket-sized copy of the Constitution? I remember who was saying, you know what? If you need to carry around a copy of the Constitution, chances are you don't know what's in it.
That's funny. I love that.
I think it was a reference to Mike Lee of Utah, who's running for his life right now.
Right.
And he's just one of those. And by the way, he's so far in on helping out Trump there on January 6th. It's not even funny. And he's just getting his ass reamed out by Evan McMullen, who's running against him, who's obviously a much better candidate and a much better human being and a much better person.
I saw Mike Lee trying to beg Mitt Romney to give him some money, right?
Well, no, he wants his endorsement. He wants his endorsement.
On a
because
check.
Mitt Romney gives his money to nobody. You know that.
See you guys tomorrow for Hump Day, as Brad said earlier.